It Smokes back in the building, I got a PSA. Triple C, Shot City Cypher, I told you we don't play. So you can spend a million years trying to find a weakness, but the armor is airtight, don't be facetious. You fooling yourself with these thoughts of grandeur. I'm a play, killing weak MCs slow like cancer. I'm the answer to all of your thoughts.
Go to the left.
Yo, sorry about that. I might hey man, listen, that's funny. We had a show earlier, and I forgot to turn that damn thing off. But Big Facts is, hold on, I need to get rid of that because when we end the show, it's gonna turn back on. So let me do that right now. But anyways, you already know what this is, man. This is Check-In. I am Heat Detector. I got my co-host in the building, Shy City Cypher's very own Jizzo.
Yes, sir.
In the building.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
also,
you.
too, we got a special guest in the building, Reggie Smokes.
Good afternoon,
and
guys.
Of course, as always, we have OT, the drill sergeant,
OT
tapping in from California. We also have the youngster.
side?
The youngster's in here. He's
Youngster's
in the building.
building.
The youngster is in the building.
Who is
Yes,
that?
sir.
No, we can't say his name. We just gonna call him the youngster. And I think he's cool.
Why
with
can't
that.
we say his name? He's gonna comment.
I think
he's gonna comment on topics.
I'm pretty sure he's cool with being called the youngster.
True.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it is what it is.
Yeah.
And also we're gonna be having I'm sorry, but we're gonna be having somebody else pop in from Colorado. He was on last week. He loves the show. The native one is gonna be popping in here shortly.
Yes, sir.
So we got a lot to talk about today, man. You know, like always, man, you know, our show is generally based around mental health and issues that men struggle with. You know what I mean? And not just men, women as well.
Everybody.
We like to get
Everybody,
both.
yeah.
We like to get both opinions, and with that, we're gonna go right into the disclaimer. We are not therapists.
Not at all.
We are not licensed mental health
Fuck no.
experts.
Not at all.
None of us are, but we come together and we talk about things that are affecting men's mental health, and we try to come up with solutions, and we talk about the problem, and we welcome the female opinion.
Yes.
So this is that show, man, where you could come here in an open forum and openly speak. We're
Yeah.
not gonna judge you, bro. We
Not
might
at all.
tell you the truth, right?
No, here's the thing.
We're gonna tell you the
I'm-
truth, but
Definitely.
we're not
We're
gonna
gonna
judge you.
keep it 1,000 because I have to say this every fucking show. That if you are tender-footed, tender-headed, you got cotton candy in your ears and daydream of fucking butterflies and rabbits jumping
Get
through
the
a park,
fuck out of this
get
podcast.
the fuck off this podcast. This is not for you. If
No,
you
sir.
wear your emotions on your sleeve, get the fuck off this
If
podcast.
you're gonna get hurt at one of our comments and end the call,
get the fuck off
get
this
off the
podcast.
podcast.
Yeah,
Yes,
for
sir.
real. And I mean that. And we mean that in
Well,
the
we're
most
not
respectful
bullying.
way. Not
We've
a
been
bully.
called bullies.
From the
We've been
bottom of our
called-
hearts.
We've been called bullies, but you know what? It's not bullies when we're talking, when there's a couple people telling you the truth.
The truth.
And that's what this is about
Yeah.
being able to confront daily issues that people go through, daily life
Right.
issues, and kind of be able to break them down and talk about it from a
Not kind of. We are breaking it
different
down from
perspective.
different perspectives.
And we
yeah.
have different members that tap in with us, man. Shout out to D Nick from the Microphone Misfits,
Yeah,
who's
shout out
actually a
D-Nick.
licensed professional.
He'd be
when
jumping
it-
in and helping us sometimes.
And
when
he
we,
also talks
you
with
know,
us.
have our little things.
But let's get into it, man.
Okay, but wait, before we get into it,
Yeah.
man, because to expound on what you're talking about, you know, we're not licensed therapists. We're not none of those things. And yeah, we do say things that may rub people the wrong way and that may be a little abrasive. But you know what? The truth is abrasive. You know what I'm saying? Facts are abrasive. And especially for people that can't take accountability or don't know how to take accountability or don't understand or have the emotional space to take accountability or just emotional space, period. This may be.
But that doesn't mean they're out though, because
no,
this
that's
is
not
a
what I'm
place.
talking
This is a
about, bro.
place to teach them
Exactly.
how
But
to
what I am saying
accept
is,
that.
okay, good, got that. But what I'm saying is that if someone, because this is important that we say this because we're on YouTube, we're not trying to get flagged, we're not trying to get, you know, and hurt anybody or hurt anybody's feelings. We're speaking from our own perspective. We're trying to give it all around perspective. So sometimes those all around perspectives are not, they're not going to be nice.
No,
You know what I'm saying?
we've had same household, different perspectives.
Right. Yeah. 100%.
We've had that on the
We've
show
had that.
before, where there's two people that are in the same household and they both believe two different things about the same topic.
Yeah.
So that's why this is important. We're all gonna have different opinions. OT's gonna have a different opinion. Heat's gonna have a different opinion. Reggie Smokes is gonna have a different opinion. But we can at least all come together and attempt, which you would say is a backdoor word, but attempt to
Yeah.
come up with a solution for what it is that we're talking about. And we do have topics.
Yeah.
If you've been following the show, you've been following some of our previous topics, which were, dealing with different things within relationships and having to do with mental health.
Right.
Heat, you got a really good show planned for today, man, and I think that we should just, start talking about it.
Yeah. So the show, if you read the flyer, if you've seen the flyer, if you're looking at the title of the show, it's like, what the fuck is going on with society? And I said, I thought it was important to address this because, we have I don't know how many generations are alive right now, but it's probably the most generational a group of people that
at
are
least
alive
five.
right now.
There's at least five
yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Most generationally diverse.
There's at least
Yeah.
five
Yeah.
and a small percentage of 6, but at least there's at least 5 generations.
Right, and that's the crazy shit. But even within
every 20 years.
it's every 10.
Every
think.
10?
I think so. Yeah.
Generations?
Maybe.
No, that
generation.
means 10-year-olds are having
Okay,
babies.
whatever the fuck
All right,
it is, whatever the fuck it is. But the thing is that there's so many, and the craziest part about it is that there is a gap in that generational, that in those generations, there's a gap of understanding, there's a gap of knowledge.
Definitely.
And with that, we have all of these crazy ass things going on. And who is that says, what's the topic? God damn it. Oh,
All right.
Okay. So with
Yeah,
that,
get to it, man. What's the
come on,
fucking
I'm
topic?
the topic is what the fuck is going on with society, because we have, listen, if you're gonna ask me a question,
get to the butter, bro.
okay,
You're
I'm getting to the butter, but
get
in
to
order
the butter.
okay, bro,
Get
in
to
order
the
to
butter.
get there, let's take it down a notch. In order to get there, we do have to kind of slide a little butter on the bread just before we shut the fucking, the sandwich, so to speak.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Come on, man. Don't do that shit. Don't do that shit. This is, I don't like that shit. This is not.
Nah,
this is
man,
not the
let
show.
them do that
This is-
because that's the
This is not
conversation.
the
You
show.
can't close
This is not the
off.
show for that. This is what I'm saying.
You cannot close off in this conversation.
Okay, I'm
Heat.
not trying to close things up, but this is not a joking situation. So this
Well,
is not time
say the
for,
topic so we
okay,
know what we're talking about.
If you would shut the entire fuck up, I can,
All right,
and I will.
Let's get it.
Okay, we're talking about the generational gaps and all these other things and all the things that have come along with that. We have people that don't want to identify with their gender. We have people that are saying that male masculinity, toxicity. You know what I'm saying? Because a guy is supposed to just, I don't know, like if he hurts his knee and he says, "No, I'm fine," that's some kind of toxic shit. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
There's relationships are so fucked up now as opposed to how they were back in the day. Even in my time of growing up, they're completely fucking different. There's a lot of shit going on. And with that being said, okay, I got you. But with that being said, that's a lot of shit going on for people that came from one generation to another generation trying to figure this shit the fuck out while they're pushing an agenda and all these agendas.
Are you
are being
talking?
pushed.
But you're talking about sexuality then?
I'm talking about sexuality. I'm talking about relationships.
Yeah,
I'm
spectrum
talking about
of
personal
things.
shit. Everything within this, because look, the fact of the matter is we all have to fucking live, breathe, and shit, and see each other and do whatever. But when you have all these agendas, perfect example, a friend of mine, and this is a double standard. But think about it. We've never had this issue before. So this guy fucking, let's just say it's a dick print, right? He was trying to leave the house. The girl sees the dick print, is saying, "You ain't leaving the house like that," or whatever the fuck case may be. And he doesn't really know what the fuck she's talking about until she points at his fucking crotch. She's like, "Yeah, your fucking dick print," or whatever. Okay. And then his no, I'm saying though, like, so they get into a whole argument because why would she say something about him wearing sweats, which is just like a normal thing for a fucking dude? She's worried about his dick print, but she ain't fucking worried about him. She's walking out the house with leggings, you know what I'm saying, with the camel toe and the fucking ass cheeks hanging out and everything else. You know what I mean? That's crazy to me that somebody would stop somebody like, "Oh, you're not going out of the house, with that dick print for a guy." Like, that's what? Well, where did we come? At what point did we come to that kind of shit where a male and a female are going to sit and argue about the kind of clothes that a dude is wearing?
Well, brother
outside?
Heat, if I might add something
go
here,
ahead, Reggie.
I think.
Oh yeah.
I think,
give it the mic. Give it up.
Yeah.
I think, to put it simply, what's happening in America today is that there is a war of values. There's a war of value systems. I think what is happening is there is a segment of the population that is content with what we would consider traditional values, which is comprised of things like marriage being a sacred sacrament between a man and a woman, traditional gender roles, job market, more healthier economy, more traditional practices as it concerns dealing with criminals and crimes, i.e. lock these niggas up and not fucking blame mental health and let them go. You know what I'm saying? Different things like that. When then there's another side of the country that is aligning with more radical, newer age values, different religious practices, paganism, Wiccanism, feminism, cultural Marxism, socialism, all the isms and the ists, the homophobes, right? The trans movement, the LGBT thing. That's not, yeah, that's fine. But androgynism, as far as it concerns the blurring of the lines between genders and different things like this. So I think what's happening is there's a war of values that's going on, and there are people who are with more traditionally aligned values, and there are people who are with more radically newer age values. And I think we're seeing that conflict play out in the political spectrum, the artistic spectrum, all these spectrums in society. Financially, we are seeing entire industries go the way of the dodo, because we're seeing marriage and bridal shops shut down because the marriage rates are going down. We're seeing clubs and places where people would traditionally get together to engage in things like mating and dating going down, because the rates of mating and dating are going down because there's such strife between genders, right? And that's where these cultural things like feminism and things like these are coming into play. So we're trying to reconcile these things in the society and figure out where these ideas fit in the society, and different people are having different reactions to these things, and it's causing conflict.
Jeez, where in the fuck did you come from? Where in the fuck did you come from with that? Yo, hey man, shout out to you, man.
Follow up with that, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, listen,
Jesus Christ.
listen. I mean, you don't, but you do. Wow. You know what I'm saying? Because he's absolutely right. He's 100% right. I think he's dead.
But he talked about the comfortable side of it, and you didn't talk about the uncomfortable side of it.
What's the uncomfortable side?
The uncomfortable side is the opposite of that, because I think that there's half of the people that are looking for that comfortable side of it, where you're talking about, where people are,
you mean like more traditional,
where people are following traditional values and following traditional things and doing things like in a line. And then there's the other segment, which is the other 50%, or maybe even the other fucking 60 or 75% that is not following that and just following the rules of social media and they're not sticking to it. I've heard people, we've had conversations within the homies where they're like, oh man, you old school, bro. You thinking about old school. You looking
I've been
at
told
it,
that. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I know you've been told that, especially with how you're talking. People have heard that from you and have said, oh, but it's not like that no more. What do you have to say to the people that say that that those core values that you have, that you're talking about, those things don't exist in the masses anymore?
Well, I wouldn't say they don't necessarily exist in the masses anymore. I think there's a silent majority that doesn't like to speak necessarily on their values. I think when it comes to a lot of people who are a part of certain communities, be it LGBT, certain political communities, things like that, that oftentimes there's a silent majority of the American public that kind of just watches things from a distance, doesn't necessarily want to get involved. They have things to lose. They have jobs, they have families, they have marriages. They're invested in the society in such a way that they don't want to blow up their own spot, essentially, by, putting out there that, hey, I'm a Republican, I don't think there's nothing wrong with you. Well, you might not want to say that because the people at your job might, right? So, because all of us are living together in the same country, right? And he mentioned generations earlier. I think there's a generational line, right? Because the people that tend to align with the more traditional things tend to come from millennials on up or down, depending how you would phrase it in terms of generational progression. But like, I'm 29, right? So like, I was talking to my little brother who's 18. And me and him see things totally differently. Oh yeah. And then there's my father who's 49. Right. Me, the three of us see things totally differently. And then there's my grandfather who just turned 70. He sees things totally differently. So when we all interact with each other, you can see the generational differences, right? Right. So even down to the way it affects the economy. You have companies that are like, well, we don't really know how to deal with these new age workers because they're demanding things from us that weren't demanded from us 30 years ago. Now we have to do maternity leave. Now we have to do now you need a corner for like a safe space. Religious breaks. Right. Now you need a corner for like a safe space where now you need, we got to buff up the HR department, diversity, equity, and inclusion department, things like this.
Right. We got two different bathrooms.
So
3 bathrooms.
Exactly. So there is a generational line when it comes to that. And I think that the friction is coming in because oftentimes there is a disruption in communication between generations.
Oh, well,
Because-
100%.
Because you hear, you know, the older people, oh, well, these new kids, you know, and then the kids are like, oh, these old niggas just hating. You know what I'm saying? So,
Right.
and oftentimes, and this is why for me, I try to bridge the gap. And I do this in my own family, even between my older brother and my father. I mean, my younger brother and my father. And even just in people that I know in general, because I'm young enough to still be like young,
Right.
but I'm old enough to be a little older. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
I'm not doing what 18-year-olds are doing, but I'm also not doing what 50-year-olds are doing.
Right.
So I'm
well,
still
you
kind
don't
of.
know that.
but-
I mean, every age is
Reggie.
such a fucking thing. But you know,
But-
real quick though.
Yeah.
I
Go
want
ahead, go ahead.
to, and I, the only reason that I want to talk about the variation of that, of everything that Reggie just said, is because I think it's real and it's in. So we heard how you grew up. We heard
Mhm.
the influences that you had. We heard everything. But then there's the other half of the community that didn't
Didn't get
Yeah,
it.
didn't
didn't have
get
that.
that.
Yeah.
They didn't have a positive influence in their life. They didn't have their grandmother and their father and everybody. So
Mhm. Broken
know-
families and things. Yeah.
so I think that we got to talk about both sides of it because it's important because
Fuck
there's
yeah.
there's
Yes, sir.
that plays into the mental health because I think from listening to you, Reggie, and most of y'all would agree that are listening. Shout out to Aztec, they're still in the group. It's different. Listening to Reggie talk is different.
Yeah, it's mad different. I'm looking
It's
at
different.
the kid right here. and I
You've done
can't believe
hundreds,
you
you've done
fucking-
hundreds
yeah.
of interviews.
Yeah, I
Listening to Reggie is different, and it's the kind of it's what I always imagine that if I took somebody or anybody in any situation, anyone took someone under their wings, it would have the culmination of that kind of love. And that's why I think it's important to have shows like this where we're talking about mental health and people that are listening that might be mid adults, growing up adults. Listen to that, bro. We didn't have that. Either you didn't have that or you did have that in your Reggie and you did have that in your Devin Swint, people that I know, or you didn't. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And that's the difference in like all of our, that's the core of all the shit we be talking about on
Yeah,
the show, the
and-
mental health.
well,
By
shit, look, the
not
crazy
having
shit.
brothers. We have us as brothers, but
right. But
everyone
check,
don't have that.
check. Like everything that he said was 100% true. Like I agree with him 100%, wholeheartedly. But when we talk about like just like stresses of shit, I'm the elder statesman here.
Yes,
okay?
sir.
And I struggle with a lot of shit because in the house I'm like, man, what the fuck?
Man,
Get the fuck out of here.
Man, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, what's up?
What do you think is, because we touched on kind of like the mental health concerns of men in particular. So I guess we can start there. But my question to you is, what do you think are like some of the chief mental health concerns facing like men in America today?
I
if
would
you had to
say, like, fuck men in America. Let's talk about men of color. Let's talk about men of color
That's
because
fine.
that's where we have to really look at and really, because this is a people. Every person of color has been marginalized, and let's be
Mhm.
really clear. For hundreds and hundreds of years, there's all kinds of we could go like down a rabbit hole with this shit. But the thing that I believe that these problems exist and how it all not happens, but we struggle with stresses. You know what I mean? And as I was getting to allude to, being in the house, I'm like, yo, this shit, that shit. I get stressed the fuck out because my kids sometimes don't understand where I'm coming from, and I'm over here thinking I'm like trying to run a house like with an iron fist, right? Then I get outside and I can't say the shit that I say in the house because number one, I don't know what these fucking youngsters are doing. Because if I tell one of them to fuck off and kiss my ass or some shit, I'm liable to get shot. You know what I'm saying? And not that I'm afraid or anything like that, but these are stresses. You know what I'm saying? And not to mention, I got to be careful, man. I've never been like, I'm careful of how I speak. I'm careful of how I address people and everything. But like even the freedom to even just say certain shit has become ridiculous. Everybody feels attacked, and I feel like there's at least two generations right now that are just weak ass motherfuckers. That's just my opinion.
Let me see
You're
if I
talking
can.
about you're talking about the cancel generation where if you motherfucking say the wrong shit.
I'm talking about I'm directing this shit to every fucking individual. Then when I said if you got cotton candy for fucking ears and all of that shit, this ain't the show.
You're showing your age.
All right, so-
You're
No,
showing your age with that cotton candy for your ears.
Ask me a question. I'm gonna let me finish answering it
Okay.
because there are stresses and those, and I'm not taking any stresses or any other problems from anybody else. Everybody has them. And I'm not even saying this in particular just for me or people my age. It's just people of color go through a different level of stress and mental what's the word I'm looking for? Trauma than most. There's people of color that never had fathers or mothers. You know what I'm saying? That grew up in a system that is doing nothing to help them. You know what I mean? There's abuse. There's physical abuse. There's mental abuse. I'm not saying that any other people don't have these things, but it's more prevalent in the communities of color. You know what I'm saying? And those are compounded on top of that with the social stresses and the social pushes, because some people just don't have the tools, the mechanisms to deal with those things. And that's why we're seeing such a high rate of people with mental health issues and shit, and they're not being addressed properly. In this city of Chicago, they have shut down in areas with people of color. This is crazy that they're shut down clinics. They're just like, fuck the people of color. You can't get any fucking help. And then on top of that, financially, who's got the money for the shit? You know what I mean? But we can fucking worry about building the fucking stadium for the fucking Bears, or we can open up housing or clinics and things. And I'm not, for people, for immigrants and everything, but let's look at the people that actually live in the city as well.
Even the people that live in the city, bro. The ECCSC, shout out to Tyrone Muhammad, was protesting by staying outside of the hospital over on, sorry, man, don't fact check me on it, but he was over at the hospital where those people where the people that work at that hospital are making $500,000 a year.
Right.
All of the top staff of that hospital are making $500,000 a year salary, and that hospital is fucked up and doesn't have the resources that it needs. Right. But yet all these people are making $500,000 a year working at the hospital.
That's a whole nother rabbit hole.
Crazy.
System and everything else that.
But Aztec asked, well, what was the topic? Can you just briefly say what the topic was?
The topic is what the fuck is going on with society.
But what part of it? What part of it, bro? What part of it?
Again, once I start to answer the question, you begin to interrupt me. So you have to learn how to, or at least at this moment, let me finish my fucking thoughts and finish my sentence.
Go ahead.
Okay. The topic is what the fuck is going on in society. Now, what that means to me is different. What that means to you could be different than mine. What it means to him is different. But I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to get whatever it is, because I feel like every day I got to deal with something fucking different that I've never seen before. And it could be my age, or it could be just like I'm just not aware of it. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, it affects me. It affects my family. It affects my friends. It affects things around me. It affects my job circumstances. It affects everything. But that's from my perspective. You know what I'm saying? For whatever's going on in society right now is going to affect you differently. So that's the topic. So whatever's, however society is affecting you, let's speak on it and let's see what we can talk about, how we can figure out certain, solutions to certain things, or at least open up a door or an avenue of thought to help somebody, or even inspire somebody to start to do something to help these things that we talk about.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we got other brothers in the building.
Is that good enough for you?
That's good enough for me. Well, otherwise, man, we got other brothers in the building, man.
We got Native 5150.
We got Native 5150. Go ahead and introduce yourself, bro, and tell them where you coming from.
Native One, coming from Fort Collins, Colorado.
Yeah,
checking in.
Nice. That's what's up, man. Shout out Fort Collins, Colorado, and OT. Where you at, brother?
Oh man, I think you're on mute.
You're muted. Bro. You're muted, bro. You're muted
again.
You muted yourself.
Oh man, we still can't hear you, bro.
We can't hear you, OT. I don't know what you did with your mic.
You're on mute, brother.
Yeah, I don't know what you did.
But OT's coming from the West Coast. He'll get on in a second.
Native One. Have you've been listening to this a little bit? What are your thoughts on some of this stuff?
As far as what's going on in today's society.
Yeah, and how it affects you?
I mean, it's crazy because the world has been going more towards technology based, and just everybody and everything is going, onto an electronic tablet. Everything that you do in society, like you're having, it's all going to machinery, you know what I mean? It's all going to computers. It's crazy. Like you can't even go to a gas station anymore and have somebody help you out. It's check out at this little kiosk, and like there's nobody working in gas stations anymore. It's crazy. It's bugging me out, man.
Man, you know what, man? I have like a little theory about that, man, because speaking of like a generational gap, that's something I've often heard like older people complain about, like sort of like 60s and up, is like, oh man, like what happened to the gas station attendant? What happened to the bathroom attendant? What happened to the person that bags just like groceries at the grocery store? Like what happened to the service?
I can tell you what happened.
You know what I'm saying? Like what happened to the service?
People forgot. People forgot how to care. People forgot how to, because that was part of it. You go to a gas station, you felt like you were a fucking king. The guys come out, they wash your fucking windows, do whatever. You can ask somebody a question, they give you a map, they tell you something. You felt like people cared about you. And people stop fucking caring and just and everybody wants everything right now.
That's part of it. But what I think is several things. As is social change, cultural change, economic change, right?
Don't get too deep on it.
Right.
We got to keep it on the layman's level for some people.
I'm listening. I understand.
Don't underestimate the the intelligence of the viewers.
No, I'm not at all. I just want to make sure that the ones that are looking at and listening that are going, what the fuck is he talking about?
Yes, sir.
That you're able to articulate that so that they can,
yes, sir,
understand.
What I will say is this, several components to that, as far as like the economic change surrounding like the transition from people service to kind of self-service, and like banks, gas stations, restaurants, things like this. You see the uprise of the kiosk, right?
Yeah.
And things like this. So I think that's partially several things. Culturally, there is more isolation between individuals these days, and the family unit is pretty much like broken down. We used to like eat dinner collectively together, like at night in families. Like if you survey the average person, they don't eat dinner with like other people on a regular basis. People usually eat alone. People usually like watch TV alone. People do more things alone now.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and then there's also the uprise of like, speaking of mental health issues, like people are more prone to isolation due to like anxiety. You hear more people saying they're scared of people in public. Oh, people make me nervous. I don't like large crowds. I don't like large groups. Things like this. ADHD, all these sort of, OCD, all these sort of things. Anxiety, BPD, all this sort of stuff. And I think that has made sort of self-service and self-checkout more appealing, because once again, the generational gap, younger people love it. People love it. Like,
I don't mind this shit.
Like 30 and under, we love it. Good. Don't talk to me. Leave me alone. I don't want to talk to nobody. But like 40 and older, they hate it. They like, where's my service? I'm coming here and you're not servicing me. Like, why am I coming here to give you my money if you're not going to give me a service? Right. You know what I'm saying? Because they have a more traditional view of economic exchange. They have a more traditional view of that. Whereas younger people are like, we're used to DoorDash. We're used to Uber. Like, I can do it myself. I don't need anybody to, you know what I'm saying? Because we don't like people as much. Right. Because we grew up among divorce. We grew up among, these things. So we're not used to, like I said, eating dinner with a family. We eat alone in our rooms. Right. So whereas generations past, they ate together with a family, Sunday dinners, things like this. That's not really a thing anymore. So that's the kind of cultural piece. Economically, we can't afford to pay people to do these things anymore. We can't really afford to pay people to do these things anymore. So we can't hire people to do these things anymore. And people in America see themselves so highly that they see these jobs as beneath them. Nobody wants to pick oranges. Nobody wants to be the greeter. Nobody wants to do these things. People want to be an influencer. People want to feel like their work has purpose. People don't feel like picking oranges and greeting people in Walmart has purpose. People see themselves as more important than these things. So the collective self-esteem of the worker,
modern day slavery.
Exactly. The collective self-esteem of the worker has risen in more recent generations.
And those jobs don't even pay like that. You know what I'm saying? So who wants to do that?
Right. We find them demeaning. We find them beneath us. And the pay is often not.
Where the fuck does that entitlement come from?
I'll explain to where that entitlement comes from. Comes from mainly technology, right? Back in the days, we didn't have people and social media as well. Today, you can make $1 million pretending to be an NPC on TikTok. You couldn't do that 20 years ago. You couldn't do that 30 years ago. You couldn't do that 40 years ago. You can do that today. You can be a millionaire today as King Batch on Instagram. You can be a millionaire today on Facebook. You don't really have to do any real work to acquire a lot of money. So the value of capital and the way we see the value of capital has changed. People saw the value of capital as exponentially more value because they had to put in sweat 20 years ago. You had to work in a mine. You had to work at a company 20 years and work your way up. No one does that anymore. We job hop. We don't see ourselves as being committed to a company. We're committed to ourselves. Individualism has risen. We are individuals now. That's how we see ourselves. We don't see ourselves as part of a collective. We're individuals. So when you see yourself as an individual, you are not going to take anything that you see as beneath you.
Bro, you better slow. You got to slow down.
Slow down.
Keep saying that, bro.
Slow down a little bit.
Preaching.
So once again, it's the generational difference, right? So my younger brother, he works at Burger King.
Yeah,
he's worked at several other fast food jobs and things. He's young. He's 18. My father, he worked at Pizza Hut for like 10 years. People don't do that anymore.
Hell
right.
Nah.
So
long term now is like 5 years.
Exactly. So because people have come to be more mistrustful of the economy. My generation lived through the housing collapse of 2008. We lived through the recession. We lived through, seeing DoorDash and Uber pop up, and it's like, well, you don't have to call a cab anymore.
Yeah.
Use an app. Right. So there's an app for that. That's a new phrase. That's a new generational phrase. Well, there's an app for that. There wasn't an app for that 20 years ago. So you had to get out and talk to people. You had to talk to somebody. The need for social skills has diminished because everything has been digitized, and electrified. So, and so when it's like that, young workers are like, well, I don't owe this company anything. You owe me. Because if you want my skills, if you want my dedication, if you want my time, you're going to have to compensate me.
Pay me.
And compensate me at an appropriate rate that I see is appropriate, not you.
Absolutely.
Right. So whereas before the mentality was, I have to pay my dues. I have to work my way up. I have to prove myself. No one feels like they need to prove themselves to a corporate entity anymore.
No, you don't have to prove yourself to me. The pandemic,
right?
I think also, Reggie, to touch on what you're saying, man. I think the pandemic really shed a light on the fact that you didn't have to be somebody else's worker anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You could start up a cooking
entrepreneurialism.
You could start up a cooking company. You could start up a t-shirt company.
App.
You could start up an app. You could start up 1,000 different things.
OnlyFans.
You could start up 1,000 different things.
Oh, the whore economy. That's a whole other thing we can get into.
Yeah.
I just want to touch on real quick. I want to hit the comments real quick.
I know, but wait a minute. OT, you might have to jump out, jump back in because I don't know what you did, but you muted yourself.
Yeah, bro. We can't hear
OT, you're muted, brother.
You're
muted. Jump out and jump back in. But we're gonna go ahead and hit the topic, the comments, man. Shout out to Aztec De Niro. He said, post alive. He can't share Heat Detector because his page is private.
My page isn't private.
Yeah, get your fucking page on private.
All right. Whatever.
But aside from that, man, you can find this live on multiple streams. Tell them what the streams are where they can find
this. You
can
go on YouTube at Unwrap. So www.youtube.com/@Unwrap. You can go on Unwrap on Facebook. You can, So those are the two places.
Look up Unwrap on Facebook or on the email.
Hey, Reggie, I got a question for you, man.
Yes, sir.
What do you think the reason for men's mental health? What do you think the main reasons why us young men go through, more depression, more anxiety, more, you know what I'm saying?
Good question.
Because like back in the day, like this is just my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like back in the day, like there wasn't so much of that because of social media. I've been saying it in the show, you know what I'm saying? Because it puts us like it puts us to have to follow a different standard than like back in the day that we didn't really have to follow. You could really, see your great grandpa and see how your great grandpa, is, being a gentleman, opening the door, stuff like that, and you gravitate on that. But now, you know what I'm saying? You're sitting in front of a tablet, and you scroll on Facebook or whatever, and you see, oh, well, if you really want to have me, she's a pretty girl, you know what I'm saying? You got to spend this amount of money, you know what I'm saying? You got to drive this kind of car. You got to, you know what I'm saying, have this kind of job. So I want to know how you feel about that, man. See, and pick your brain about it, man.
Man, okay. I appreciate that question, man, because that's a question that needs to be asked.
Good question.
What I will say is there's a multifaceted answer to that for sure. But what I think at the core of it is that young men are currently a part of a society today that is shifting and changing so rapidly that it's hard to find your footing in it. Right. So earlier I talked about the war of values. Right. And I think young men are affected chiefest among the people who are affected by that because chief among chief of the issues among this war of value is the definition, place, and purpose of masculinity in society today.
Ooh,
Right?
definition,
So,
place, purpose. Wow.
It's
Can you
definition.
elaborate for that?
Yes,
people
sir.
don't
It's
understand?
definition, what it is, its place, where it belongs, and its purpose. What does it mean?
Mhm.
And what is it supposed to do?
Right. What is it?
Right. So the definition is changing. It used to be that the definition of masculinity was the more stoic John Wayne, fewer words, action, a man of action, a man of his
Right.
word. That was things that were valued. Now it's more about being, the definition of masculinity is changing because you have the uprising of terms like toxic masculinity. Masculinity wasn't toxic 20 years ago. It was simply
It wasn't
masculinity.
toxic 10 years ago.
Right. Even a decade ago. Right.
Right.
So today
Yeah.
we have the uprising of terms like masculinity, which vilify things like stoicism, which vilify things like sort of the strong silent type, which vilifies things like the lack of expression of a man's emotion and things like this. So I think that the shifting of the definition of masculinity has young men in particular in a state of confusion, because as young men, they seek to prove themselves in whatever society they occupy, because
Right.
that's traditionally has been the position of young men in any society, is to prove themselves. Yeah. So in Jewish circles, there is the bar mitzvah that happens traditionally at the young man's age of 13. That in their religion or their culture is the age of accountability. In other religious or cultural practices, there are different ages of accountability. In Japan, it's like 20, and quinceañeras is 15 for girls, right? So different ages have different cultures, and different religious practices have different ages of accountability where they consider you mature or an adult. So now when you have people who are in their 30s talking about, oh, I'm failing at adulting, what does being an adult mean anymore?
Right.
So now when you're 18 and you're looking at eventually being 30, and the 30-year-olds are confused about what being an adult is, what does that mean for you?
Well, I get to listen. That's crazy you brought that up, because in my, and I don't even like, but when I was coming up, if you didn't have a home, like if you weren't a homeowner, this was like an agenda that was always like not necessarily pushed, but it was always there. Like if you are not at a job and successful and had a home by at least 25,
Right.
you are a fucking
That was a
bum.
measurement of manhood.
Yeah, you
right?
were a fucking bum. What do you mean you don't have a fucking car at 25? You know what I mean? What do you mean you don't have a place to live at 25 of your own?
The measuring stick
Yeah.
has changed.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it has changed so quickly because, one, the economic piece. Men can no longer afford to afford a family alone on one income. That's not possible in America's
Right.
economy unless you're making like significant income. Most men are not. So, so with that being said, and with the addition,
you really think that that's the majority? That most men cannot afford to support a family?
Whoa. Before you even
No, he's
answer that,
talking-
no, but
no, I'm
peep
saying-
this, because E. Johnson, shout out to E. Johnson, one of our loyal watchers and listeners. He says he's had mentors because no man speaks in
Yeah,
such
man.
manner without.
Shout out to your
Oh, yeah,
shout out
no
to your
doubt.
village,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Hey, for real.
Um,
Shout out to your village, man.
oh, man, I
Like-
appreciate y'all.
Yeah, I mean
real,
that's
for
that's a heavy thing to say, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're all inclusive
But
in
he's
that.
1% though. He's
No, that's not
that's
what I'm
what's
saying.
fucked
Okay.
up about society right now.
everybody-
You asked what the fuck is up with society, and I think what the fuck is up with society is that there's not a 75% influx of Reggie Smokes, and there's a 75% influx of Lil Uzi Flirt.
Okay,
Lil
yeah,
Uzi Flirt.
Okay, but here's the thing.
That's what I'm saying. That's the
Okay,
problem.
okay. D-Nick
People-
is in the building because I need to
Flirt.
say this real
Yes.
quick. I need to say
D-Nick,
this.
we needed you in the building,
Right,
brother.
but I need to say this real quick. I really
We
need
needed
to
D-Nick.
say
Go
this
ahead and get
real
it off,
quick.
brother.
He's not inclusive just because he had a mentor. Some people don't have mentors,
He
and they
is
find. Wait a
inclusive.
minute. Let me finish. Some people have it within themselves to educate themselves and do these types of things and speak in that same manner without a mentor. A mentorship doesn't necessarily mean that's
they're
the
not.
only
No,
reason.
they're not. No,
And
they're
I
not.
just that's the
Well,
only
yeah.
reason I said that. You
No,
know what I'm
they're-
saying?
No, they're
Because he-
not.
well, I'm saying this. I'm responding to what E. Johnson said. Oh,
Oh,
he's
yeah.
like that, and basically he's like, oh, he's like that because he had a mentor. Motherfuckers don't have mentors, so
Oh, yeah.
that's like the liking to say, like, well, he's fucking lucky and fucking.
You don't
special.
need to have a
And-
mentor. You need to have a fucked up situation happen
Right.
in life that makes you realize that kind of shit, right? Because most of this knowledge, Reggie, that you're talking and where you're coming from comes from a place of where you've looked at situations and realized that this is what went wrong in those situations, and this is how people improved on those situations.
Right.
Like you're bringing shit that's a higher level of like resolution. The things that you're coming with are things that people have resolved already, and like
Yeah, shout out to you, though, Reggie. I'm not trying to attack you or anything. I was just merely trying to make a point.
Yeah, knowledge can be acquired in many ways. Sometimes by
yeah.
experience, sometimes by teachers. It just depends. I was blessed enough to have teachers and not to have to, go through things that others went through to acquire the same level of knowledge that I have now.
Right.
Which thank God for that. But back to bro's question, the definition of manhood has changed. The place of manhood has changed. So since the definition of change, where do we place it now? So when the definition of manhood was more of the traditionally masculine sort of stoic thing like that, we knew exactly where to place it. We placed it in danger because that's where it functioned best.
What do you mean by stoic, Reggie? There's people listening that don't know. I'm
got you.
What do you mean by stoic?
Stoicism basically encompasses what we would kind of call like the strong silent type. So stoicism is more like more so speaking with actions as opposed to words. More so developing your character through difficulties and hardship, and kind of keeping that close to the chest and using that as a way to navigate your way through the world, less with words, but more action. Okay. So whereas women are more so encouraged to talk their way out of situations, negotiate, be diplomatic. Men are encouraged to act, right? That's always been the station of men to act, not necessarily talk unless we needed to talk. So with the definition of masculinity changing, now we're seeing it being placed in different places, right? So before masculinity was placed in the position of head of household, now it's placed in position of partner. So now, well, you can wash dishes too. You can change diapers too. You can watch kids too. You can take them to soccer practice. You can take them to ballet.
Equal.
Whereas exactly equality in terms of household responsibilities, economic responsibilities in the household, right? Because the household is the primary place where we kind of identify ourselves according to gender roles as men specifically. Absolutely. And women as well. So the home environment has changed due to the economics and due to the culture, feminism and things like this. So the place of masculinity has changed. Now it's being put in a place of, well, you should be the one to make space for others. That's the role that they want to portray men should do now. And at times men should do that. But the nature of masculinity is that, especially when in close proximity to other masculine energies, is competition. That's just what it is. It's not necessarily cooperation all the time. Sometimes we butt heads and we compete as men. We're competitive. We have pride. We have ego. Which is not to say that women don't have these things, but they express these things on a different level. Normally social violence as opposed to physical violence. But so the place of masculinity has changed, and now you have young men being confused, like, okay, the Me Too thing happened. Do I talk to girls? Do I not talk to girls? I'm being told I shouldn't approach. Then I'm being told I'm like a bad guy if I don't approach women. Should I approach women? Should I talk to them? Is it misogynistic if I open the door? Is it misogynistic if I don't open the door? If I open the door, is that an assumption that she can't do it herself? If I open the door, like, you know what I'm saying? So now we're having, what's my role? Do I talk to them in the workplace? Do I not talk to them? Do I interact with them? Do I not? Yeah. It's like the lines are being blurred. Like, you know what I'm saying? You have women all on social media who are, like, hey, don't approach me in public. I hate it. Then you have women crying because they're not being approached. We're, you know what I'm saying? So we're confused.
Yeah, I will tell you this, man. It's a beautiful thing to hear a young man speak and articulate himself the way that you do. D-Nick, tell us, what do you think about hearing this from this young man?
Yo, man, I rock with this brother. This brother's dope. Like, I was enjoying and admiring, this brother's solid.
Appreciate you.
Yeah. The thing that I would not even challenge, that I would just say about like the defining masculinity, if we and I work as a counselor for young men, like giving them a rites of passage. I won't say the organization, they ain't paying me like to promote them or anything, but I work for a company that does that. But I'll say this, like in our practice as a counselor, they kind of have guided us to instruct that you define it based on you. You know what I'm saying? You define it, and I mean, there's principles like integrity, accountability, positive anger expression, respect for womanhood, visionary. Fatherhood is not in there. Visionary goal setting, all of that, because it comes with all of that. All of those, like the whole manhood thing, that's culturally and politically defined by the individual. You you know, and I think that's where a lot of people get confused about, men and women, but particularly we talking about the men. That's where people get confused. Like, you define it yourself. Like, you define that spectrum yourself. Like, well, we think that only LGBTQIAPP++ people get a spectrum. No, we get a spectrum too.
Right,
we get a spectrum too.
You're
like,
right.
so
It is,
it's like, so you can be like, I always challenge the terms of, I challenge the terms of toxic masculinity, because my masculinity just is. Bad behavior is bad behavior. That ain't got nothing to do with my masculinity.
Masculinity or femininity, exactly.
Yeah, you know, I have a personal problem with the term patriarchy.
Bruh,
And, you know,
Right.
because patriarchy means father. You know, it's a fancy $5 word for father. So if you down with patriarchy, whoa, as black fathers, we have a problem. Down with us, because I know a whole bunch of single black mothers that will say something different. You know, so you know, are we saying down with like the father system? That's kind of crazy. Because if you say down with patriarchy, that means patriarchy bad, and mother. Just say down with sexism.
Right.
Sexism is bad. No, you shouldn't make more than a broad if you're doing the same work. That's bad.
Yeah.
That's bad. You know what I'm saying? And it's it's a lot of it is trick knowledge. It's trickery with the language and the fancy $5 words. I always call them $5 words. You know what I'm saying? It's all trick knowledge to kind of lead you somewhere. And so when you hear, like, there are, maybe not a lot, maybe not a certain thing, but there are some women, you know, and if you think this is bad, that's your personal preference. But there's some women that are like, no, I like catcalling. And there's a lot of women that don't like catcalling. And so what are they to do? You know what I'm saying? What are they to do, you know, in this situation? Man, you know, and yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, because to me that kind of speaks to like the war. The war is a strong word, but like the kind of the clashing between sort of collective culture versus like individual culture, right? Because you say some women like catcalling, some women don't. But the thing that's making it confusing, I think, for people today, especially in terms of the areas of young people for like mating and dating and things like this, and just all of us for mating and dating, really, is that you know, there used to be like a code for these things. There used to be an agreed upon, culturally synonymous like practice, right? And those things are sort of, as they're being redefined, people are kind of left without like a predefined role, right? So you kind of mentioned like defining masculinity for yourself as an individual man. I think that's a new pressure, because before there was a predefined role and then you could just slot yourself into it.
Can I just jump? Can I just jump in, bro? There's always been a predefined line for where the women that we wanted to be in those positions, where we wanted them in. And I was thinking about Trick Daddy and Trina. As crazy as that sounds, but it was like you don't know none. They done been in places I've been. They done seen the tricks that I've seen. They done been to places I've been. Like it was that. So it's like people talk about that disconnect where like we lost like certain leaders of certain roles, but I think always historically in music and in our culture, in our entertainment culture, we've always promoted that, where it's been like we are the man, they're the tricks. Like it's I'm not going. That's not.
No. I want to.
But historically, go ahead.
No, it's so I get what you're saying. I'm not shooting that down. What the thing is, context got to be applied everywhere. It's problem, reaction, solution. Like I'm black, like cotton picker black. You know what I'm saying? So
you know what? That's not popular though. That's why that song.
No. Wait, hold on, Giz. I'm giving you a historical context, right? What the issue is, what the young man was saying. I think his name is Reggie, if I'm correct, right? Reggie.
Yeah, Reggie.
Yeah, Reggie. What he's talking about when he's talking about the confusion is because everything is being weaponized. Whatever your stance is weaponized. So if I'm giving I can only speak for my cultures because I only know that like intrinsically. So like we have like culturally, my grandmother worked and my grandfather worked always. There's never been a time that, you know, and these is black folks from the 20s and 30s, you know what I'm saying? They've always worked. But, you know, because they both have worked, he was always put down. You know what I'm saying? He was always put down and told to be less of a man. You know, where privileged, like Caucasoid women did not work. You know what I'm saying? And when you spin the narrative and you weaponize it, you know, it's no different from if there's a woman who's very conservative, you know what I'm saying? Like it's her conservatism and respectability politics gets weaponized against her, like, oh, she's approved. Oh, that bitch don't give you nothing and she's approved, you know what I'm saying? And then the other woman is weaponized too, where it's just like, oh, she easy, she a slut, she a hoe, you know, like all of that type of stuff. Whereas like it's two sides played against the middle being weaponized against the other side. And it leads for younger people that are trying to find their way in the world to be confused.
I agree.
I think that thank God. I think that thank God at this point that we all understand from both angles that we all have to put in some kind of work.
Mm-hmm.
Accountability first.
That's what I'm saying. Like I think both. I think that it's a general understanding now when you have two people that are coming together from two separate lives that they are that they're going halves on shit, that they're coming together. That whole vision of like the man works and the man provides and all that shit, it's kind of been over with because today's society, all these kids that are 20 and something years old, they're not fucking taking girls on $150, $200 dates. They're taking girls to places where they're sharing ice cream and fucking sushi and shit, and they're doing that. Like it's not the same split anymore.
But the split comes from that's
about men and women all day. But the reality is that the girl that you take, D-Nick, if you take a girl on a date, she's gonna want you to pay.
Let's take
half or more of that date.
We got two other people.
Yeah, you're right. Let the brothers talk.
Native one, what are your thoughts? You've been sitting back. You've been quiet. You haven't been saying anything. What are your thoughts?
I just think, you know, with the whole aspect, like the male female, I think it's just there's no more empathy and understanding. You know, we tend to overcompensate where we think that we're lacking, but when we do that, we kind of make ourselves look foolish. And a lot of people, they just have these low self-esteems. Like when we spoke about it last week, people have created these worlds on social media that they feel safe in, you know? And so when they go out into society and they start, you know, trying to communicate, they're more or less communicating from that, you know what I mean? That, I'm lost, but, no, but it's just them trying to speak from that lifestyle that they've been living so far online, you know? And, it makes it a lot harder for people to actually, you know, socialize more. It's
actual interaction.
5150. How old are you, bro?
I'm 41.
Okay, cool.
OT, what are your thoughts? You sitting there listening? God damn it,
man.
You still muted. You still muted.
Still muted, man.
my
Why? How
goodness.
do you do? I don't know how you do this. You were perfectly fine earlier, man.
Turn up your headphones.
Yeah, it's probably your headphones, bro.
But the topic of today's conversation, which was the flyer that he put out, was what the fuck is wrong with society? And I think from the flyer, what I got, you had a fucking, what did you have, bro? You had a guy holding a purse.
There was a guy that was.
There's a guy holding a purse.
If you're gonna ask me questions, allow me to answer.
Explain it, yes.
Jesus Christ.
Jesus.
It was a guy that was dressed up, you know, feminine. When he has a whole beard and everything, and then the other one was like a muscle-bound guy pushing a baby stroller. Mm-hmm. And my thought was, you know, what the fuck is going on with society? We have all these different roles and all these different shifts and roles of people, and it's like the shit is beginning to get so blurred and so fucked up that like a person myself from my generation, I'm looking at this shit like, man, what the fuck is wrong with
But
these
what
people?
Like,
Like,
are
no,
you looking at?
No,
What
no,
are you
no.
looking at?
We're not talking about the flyer in general. The flyer is just the catalyst. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It just makes me look at things, or not makes me, but I look at things and I'm just going like, what the fuck is going on? Like,
can
what?
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
Larry Smith on the comments said preach, and then he also says stunted growth is more
That's
prevalent
just so ridiculous shit.
with
right
lag.
there.
Stunted. He said stunted. All right, man.
Stunted growth is more prevalent with the lack of dads and mentorship. Stunted growth. You talking about physical?
He also said divine masculine and divine feminine.
What?
Word.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
No, he's good.
I think
You don't like divine masculine to divine feminine?
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm
I think the stunted.
We
I
define
think the stunted growth.
We define masculine in this conversation, and I think that in the end, bro, we all come together with all the information that we have, but we've also got that information from the people that we learned from,
right,
that taught us, and we all learned from different generations. Reggie Smokes learned from a family that had a mother and they had a father. He said he was a single father, but he learned from somebody that definitely pumped into him and gave him knowledge, bro. And I think that,
right.
you know, it's all different. We could talk about all different levels of it, bro. We could talk about the Reggie Smokes level. We could talk about the motherfucker that had nobody at all.
Yo, G,
right.
You know,
I want to address the brother's point. I'm sorry, bro. You said you was a counselor. I don't know the name, but
My name D-Nick.
but I want to address something you said earlier about the weaponization of like narratives. I think at the base of that is like the political and cultural like polarization of people in this country.
Absolutely.
Right? The war of values once again, right? So when that level of polarization happens, it becomes an us versus them kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? Mentality.
Yeah.
So now we're kind of seeing that in the political realm with all this partisan shit, and you know, we're seeing that in the cultural realm with the conservative versus kind of liberal kind of thing that's going on right now, along with the gender kind of divide that's going on right now. And I think that the political polarization and cultural polarization stems from, once again, that war of values. And I think that that's a generational line as well. And I think that we can better bridge the gap between the generations, number one, with more communication, because a lot of times I've gotten a chance in different jobs I've had or different places I've been that God has graced me to be in, to kind of mentor or talk to younger men or different things like that. And when I kind of talk to them and I kind of explain things to them, it's kind of like, oh, well, no one's ever taken the time to explain this to me.
Yeah.
Right? So a lot of times it's the assumptions that get between us, whether it's the generational difference or the gender difference, right? The gender difference is like a big thing right now because, you know, that's shaking the culture, because you have women who are deciding to occupy different spaces in society. And so that's forcing other people to occupy different spaces in society. So, and it's causing clashing and conflict. So I think, the weaponization thing is because it's the us versus them kind of mentality. Yeah, but I think that could be solved with like better communication between genders, generations, different things like that.
And that's what's up, man. We're having conversations where we're bringing up issues that are currently affecting us, and we're also bringing solutions.
Yeah, absolutely.
To those questions, man. So I really appreciate your dialogue, Reggie. Like, for real, man.
That's dope. Yeah.
Where are we at? In the grand scheme of things, with the topic of your conversation, because I don't want to lose that.
First of all,
I don't want to lose that.
First of all, man, I got to take control of this goddamn podcast. Goddamn it,
it's your show.
Okay, then chill out. No, but I really believe that we're hitting on all cylinders right now. Honestly, you know, I'm fucking with you, but I really feel like we're hitting on all cylinders, and that's a very, very beautiful thing to me. And you know, like Reggie spoke of, opening the lines of communication. And now I'm just being an antagonist here, real quick. That all sounds good in fucking theory, but we also have a whole generation.
Oh, it's gonna take work. Yeah.
No, I'm saying we have a whole generation of kids that do not know how to communicate, even if you're standing right in front of them, even if you're spitting all the knowledge. If you're sitting right there in front of them and you're telling them everything, it's literally going in one ear and out the other.
I think,
you know what I'm saying. And now it's not really a question. But I'm just saying, you know what I mean? I'm just kind of like throwing the shit out there, because we're talking about all of this shit, and he asked me, like, how do I feel like this conversation is going? It's going great, and I was just piggybacking a little bit off of what you said, and I do want to hear what you're thinking Also, because I want to hear the younger guys in this, what their thoughts are, because I'm the oldest motherfucker here. No, I take that back. OT's the oldest motherfucker here. But
and I can't go.
But I would like to hear more. You know, I love what you're speaking on, and I love how you're articulating yourself and everything. But we got to give everybody.
Let's pass the mic around. Let's do a session where we pass the mic around.
Hey, I got this. I was just doing that. I got this, bro. So
Jesus Christ.
Listen, I want everybody to be able to speak their piece and be able to say what they want to say, and you know what I'm saying. It's important, you know what I mean. Especially if we're hitting on all cylinders like this. I'm sure everybody's sitting back going, "God damn it, I want to say something," or you know what I mean. I want to get everybody a chance to you know speak their piece and speak up, you know what's going on in their mind and their thoughts on the things that are being said. You know what I'm saying? So anybody, go ahead, except for you. Yeah, I'm just kidding, man. You can talk. Go ahead, bro. Anybody want to, you know, go ahead, man. Go ahead, Reggie.
I'm trying to remember what you said earlier. You said
the topic of the conversation is what the fuck is up
hold
with
on.
society?
I got it.
Are you
said-
talking about
so-
communication?
Exactly.
Like
So you were talking
communication-
about the lack of social skills among younger generations,
Yeah.
but I think
not
what
taught.
that is it's a matter of translation, right? Because oftentimes the focus is on the lack of communication ability among youth, and that is definitely a factor in this equation. But I think there's also a lack of communication ability among the older generations to a degree
Right.
as well, because there's a certain
100%.
lack of flexibility, right? So oftentimes like, and this is something I've dealt with my father, right, and grandfather personally, where I would kind of tell my dad something. He's a 49-year-old man, I'm 29, 20-year difference. So I would often sometimes tell him something. He'd be like, you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. And I'd be like, okay.
No, I think.
Hold on, wait.
As an older statesman,
hold on.
I'm gonna-
keep going.
Why you
And
got-
then he'll come back a month or a couple weeks later and be like, remember that thing you told me? I said, yeah. He's like, you was right. I said, I know I was right. I was waiting on you to realize I was right. Because I know what I'm talking about. So, and I don't mean that to say in a way of arrogance, but what I mean to say is I ride the CTA. My father ain't rode the CTA in 20 years.
Right.
So you wouldn't really
He
know what
wasn't
it's
he wouldn't
what it's like
understand
on the
what
bus
it's
in
like.
22.
Right,
You
got
ain't
it.
rode it in 20 years.
Got that.
So if I tell you what happened on the bus, you say, that ain't happened.
Right.
When the last time you rode the bus? 20 years
Right.
ago? So how would you know?
Right. But to
Right,
piggyback off that,
But a lot of times it's the pride and ego, because and I face it myself.
Yeah.
My little brother, he's 18.
Uh-huh.
He'll sometimes play a new rapper for me. I'm like, this nigga's trash.
right.
Yeah.
I go listen to this shit. I'll be like, it's better than I thought it was. It's better than I thought it was. And then I go back to my little brother and be like, he ain't all the way trash. He cool. Like, you know what I'm saying? He ain't all the way trash. He cool. I have to check my arrogance, because my arrogance is like, nigga, I'm from the generation of, nigga, I'm from when 50 Cent was hot. Nigga, real rappers. I'm from when Nas was hot. Nigga, when Nas dropped hip hop was dead. Nigga, I'm from that. You want to tell me about a BFB the Pac-Man? Fuck that nigga.
Right.
Arrogance as an older nigga, as a damn near 30-year-old man, that's my arrogance. I have to check that sometimes.
Right.
And I've watched my father have to check that
That
sometimes
makes
when I
me
tell him
feel
about
really
something.
young.
So
That makes me feel really young.
oftentimes we often discount our ability to
AOT.
not accept new information. That's another factor in it. So
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
oh, we can
Yeah.
hear you now. Yo, you got something to say, bro? I hear you
I
now.
just meant to say when he said as a 30-year-old man. and
Damn
I
near
said,
30. I'm 29.
"Shit."
But yeah.
He spoke with such confidence, and I was
Yeah.
like, man, I'm a 40-year-old, almost.
Bro,
a 40
yeah, and I've had to check myself. And my brother would tell me
you
about
know
a
what
new
you're talking
trend, because my little brother, he's 18. I have an 18-year-old little brother, so he'll tell me about some new shit or some new shit. I'm like, man, that shit trash. Man, that shit ain't shit. And that shit weird. And then I
Johnson.
check it out. I do some research, and I come back to him and be like, I
Okay.
guess it's all right.
E.
Like, you know what I'm
Johnson,
saying? I gotta
E.
check my
Johnson
pride
says,
sometimes.
E. Johnson says also
yeah.
the lack of communication is affected by cancel society because it makes nobody want to say shit.
That as well. That as
Yeah.
well.
and everybody's saying what the fuck they want to say. Ain't nobody shut
Nah, son. I'm not going. Not,
No one's saying what they want to say anymore. Everyone's hiding what their real feelings really are. A lot of people are
bro,
hella
these
passive
motherfuckers
now.
are hiding their
I'm being
feelings
for
in
real.
tracks,
A
bro.
lot of people now are passive. Bro.
Let's get the music out of it.
That Kendrick Lamar album was not fucking hiding back.
We're not reviewing records and raps right now.
No,
But
we're
did you
talking about
listen to it?
what we're saying in society, though. We're
Right.
talking
Am I
about what
wrong,
people are
bro?
saying.
About
Yeah.
the passiveness, I really feel like
Well-
now people are more passive and more scared to tell them their feelings because motherfuckers don't really want to sit back and listen to those things.
No,
They
because
want
heat detectors on a
express what they
podcast
say.
ready to.
Hey, bro, you know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of a post I made on Facebook recently about the difference between niceness and goodness. They are not the same thing.
Oh yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So-
Check this.
So,
So real quick,
mhm.
I said this earlier today, you know, and this is gonna probably sound fucking misogynistic or whatever the fuck. I don't really give a fuck. But every woman wants a bad boy until they're fucking in trouble. You know what I'm saying? And every dude wants a fucking wants a nasty ass woman until she's fucking nasty. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's some real crazy shit. You know what I mean? It's you know what I mean?
No doubt.
It is that shit. No, that's for real, man.
No doubt.
You want what you want, but then you know, but then when you that's just life, period. You know what I mean? That's just,
well,
you know what the fuck it means.
Word.
Think about it.
What's that got to do with it?
I think
everything what he was saying.
I think to bro's point about people being timid to speak about their feelings,
Yeah.
I think it's simply about the confusion of niceness and goodness, right?
Right.
People confuse that. Just because you're a nice person doesn't mean you're a good person.
Yeah, just because you're a bad person doesn't mean you're a fucking. You know, I mean, go ahead.
I disagree. No, I disagree. I think because in context of cancellation, like if you're talking about that, like people are compromised, bro. Like I can't. So if you compromise, like we said last week, you can get fired. Like that, that means something. You could lose. Yeah, you could lose stuff, and that's what true cancellation is. You know, like even in talking about like you like at my job, like if I'm a boys counselor, I counsel young men, and if a young woman, I'm sorry, I misgendered the person. If a young man who's born and classified a woman wants to join the men's group, you know, like I can't deny, like, buddy, you know what I'm saying? And I gotta, you know, and otherwise I'll get fired. Like at the compromise of the group, you know, and those type of things. And some people go like,
why is that okay now?
Huh?
Why?
Because okay, let's go.
It's so hard. Why is it regulated so hard?
It's all good until Mike Tyson wants to fight in the women's division.
Because those. No, I'm gonna answer Gizzo. Why is this so hard? Is because certain people cash and cut checks that pay for the stuff. You know, with like cancellation is the only person who didn't get canceled. If we talking about celebrities and all of those type of people, is Dave Chappelle, who owns his own stuff. Yeah. Like he doesn't live in Hollywood. He lives in Yellow Springs, Ohio, and so he has his own property, a farm, and he brung the media market there. The other person who can't get canceled is like a Joe Rogan because he's not backed by sponsors and advertisers. If I say something crazy, like even on here, if I say something crazy, like Microphone Misfit sponsors gonna come after our ass, and then the rest of my bandmates gonna be like, D-Nick, why are you on these random motherfuckers podcasts talking shit? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but because we're compromised, bro. If I say anything, like it's about being compromised.
We're under a brand.
Yeah, it's all like
it's controlled, so it's controlled.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely.
Why is it controlled? Why can't you say whatever you want as the Microphone Misfits?
Well, I'm sorry.
Because I'm compromised. I have sponsors, and no, I'm being 100. I ain't no snitch, but I'm sure whistleblower.
You're under their rules. You're under their rules.
Yeah. I'm also compromised from my company as a counselor. Like I can't say certain things, you know what I'm saying, in public forums. Like I sign
that you want to say that you can't say.
I mean, bro, I think it's level to that though.
Well, I wouldn't say it.
Yeah,
he likes his job.
It's definitely levels to that, bro.
Where are we at in the level of control then? If Nick can't say it because he's gonna get canceled, that means that he's under control.
All right, well, take away. Absolutely, but see, we live Gizzo, we live in a corporatocracy. We don't live in a free market capitalist society. We live in a capitalist corporatocracy. You know, so free market capital only works when you're at the bottom. You know what I'm saying? When you're at the top and when you're in the middle, then everything is controlled by corporations. If we talk about, you know, that's fact. Corporations move the needle. Like even me as a counselor, there's corporations that have decided we're going to hire this person. We're going to put this program in this school, and these kids are going to be serviced. If the company changed their mind and said, we want to put you over here, I have to make a conscious decision. Do I quit? Do I, or do I go? You know what I'm saying? I have to make that decision. And if I make that decision, I got to eat the cost of that decision because we're all compromised. I ain't fronting. It just is what it is. Like,
how do we stop being compromised?
I don't think you can stop it, bro.
No, because everything that you're saying has to do with what somebody else got to think. Everything that you're saying about your company and about your group has to do with how somebody else thinks.
All right, well, okay, 2 questions. If from my group, how do we stop being compromised? If we make the conscious decision to put our sponsors at risk or to cancel our sponsors, then we're no longer compromised. We're no longer paid, but we're no longer compromised.
So you're saying you're willing to be paid and be compromised.
Time out. Let me acknowledge E. Johnson is in the fucking show. He's here.
Yo.
Now, so like I don't know.
Blessings, brother.
You've been listening. Give your thoughts right quick while you have a
He
moment.
said also the lack of communication is affected by the Cancer Society because it makes nobody want to say shit. And that's what I'm saying.
He's right there, bro. That's what I'm saying. He's in the show right now. E. Johnson.
Yeah. Y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right.
Shit, that's E. Johnson?
Yeah.
Oh shit, what's up, fam?
All right.
We ain't never seen you before, man.
Hey. Right. I'm like the Yeti and the Loch Ness Monster, rarely sighted, only heard about.
Rare sighting of E. Johnson
Yeah.
in his natural habitat.
Excuse me. I wanted to touch on like almost how society is going on with like the definition of men and women. You know, it's off kilter and demonic and wrong. So now when I encounter new people in my life, I tell them, hey, just like you, I have changed my pronouns. From forevermore, I will be addressed as Mr. Motherfucker or Your Majesty. What? You feel me? You know, like that's a small off argument, but it makes total sense to negate foolishness and what it is presenting right now. You understand?
Well, here's the difference, E. Johnson. Like nobody has to honor that as long as you ain't backed and protected. You know what I'm saying? We don't have rights. We have privileges backed by protected groups. That's how that works. Like we live in a capital.
But I'm making the argument that
I get the argument. The argument is legit. It's legit, but it's
operating on their feelings and sentiments.
No, they're not. They're operating on. They're not though. They're operating on corporate dollars. We don't. This stuff has been around forever. It's never been acknowledged until corporate dollars have been put into it to make it so. They've always had these people.
Putting it out.
Yeah.
All that.
Big fact.
Always.
Big fact.
Like it's always been here, but it's corporate dollars that like they were, you know, like give credit when credit is due. Like, man, I want people to stop saying stuff. Let me put my money where my mouth is, and they did. You know what I'm saying? So to your question, Gizzo, when you ask like so Microphone Misfits is compromised. You know, like on certain things, yeah, we are. I mean, we still get to speak freely, and if we don't, yeah.
I wanted to speak to that real fast. About the compromising thing about compromise. I think that sort of thing is inevitable because when you're with his I'm guessing like I'm sorry, you said you were part of like a group. I forget what y'all said. Microphone Misfits. So being that this entity known as Microphone Misfits is probably an entity that's like is for entertainment, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah.
So So you're at the level of a product. You are a product
Yeah.
that is trying to be sold, right?
Both product, creator, product, and distributor. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So
you're
the
all of
creator
those
the
things.
product,
Yeah.
product, and the distributor of the product. So
Yeah.
when you're at that level, as a product, what you're trying to do is be sold.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't be sold unless there's a demand for you.
Right.
How do you
Mhm.
create a demand for yourself? Right. You traditionally you advertise, you display your talent, you do things. How do you get picked up it to be represented by like advertisements on TV? An advertising agency. What do you have to do to be a part of an advertising agency? You got to sign paperwork. You have to be beholden essentially to the advertising agency on some level.
Mhm.
Fans, you are
Yeah.
beholden to your fans on some level because the
Yeah.
only reason they are fans is because they find that you give them something that's valuable.
Right.
So they watch
Right.
you or listen to you. So
Goods and services. Yeah. Fair exchange. Ain't no rapper.
a product that's sold, you're going to be beholden to somebody because someone has to buy you, right? And then somebody has to market you in order for those sales to be maximized. So you're naturally going to be beholden to somebody. It's kind of like the same way that government functions. A mayor is beholden to his city. A governor is beholden to his state. A president is beholden to his country because you wouldn't have gotten elected unless the people of the country elected you, the people of the state elected you, or the people of the city elected you. So then you by nature have to be beholden to those people because you owe them your position of leadership, or you owe them your position of prominence if you are a popular product that is well sold.
Right.
So
You as well, young man, because you got fire bars, and so when they come for you,
I'm
when
trying
they
to
come, no, like he's right. He
sponsor. God damn it, I want one. I can't get one. God damn it.
yeah.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
But when it comes to you,
Why do we need those corporate spots?
Profit.
Why are we waiting for
Profit.
somebody else to come and save us?
Well, it's
you
not
want me to tell you the truth?
It is. Yes, it is.
Let him talk.
No, it is. It is what it is. We're waiting for somebody
Well,
to come and save us.
No, it's not that. It's not that. It's that. I'll tell you exactly what it is. It's consumers. How can I? Well, forget it. I'm with heat detector, so let's say it as offensively as possible. Consumers are sheep.
Mhm.
How about that?
Yeah.
Consumers are sheep, and so consumers need other entities that they deem is worth something to co-sign it for them to do mass consumption.
Yeah.
You know, Shy City Cypher is dope. No one can cancel. No one can say anything. No buffs, no ands, ifs. Shy City Cypher is dope.
Right.
Shy City Cypher, to clear the next level, has to get some type of cosign, or you just have to spend the money on a publicist, on all this other kind of antiquated BS to make it grow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Make it grow. And if they don't,
Or like an A-list something, you know what I'm saying?
It's all
yeah, it has to grow. What we not bragging, because it's not nothing to really, I mean, it's something to be honored about, but it's not a thing. The reason Microphone Misfit got a #1 record in 5 different countries back in December is only because we had $500,000 in the marketing budget for Way Forward video games.
Yep.
If Way Forward video, it's not like River City Anthem is the best song we ever created. It's because we had the marketing dollars of Way Forward video games at our disposal to make it that record. You know what I'm saying?
To speak to that, I wanted to speak to cultural and national isolation, right? So as a Chicago person, I'm born and raised in Chicago. There's no way that a
Well, not
person
saying I'm raised. I'm here, but I was born and raised in Michigan, but I'm here.
Right.
This is home. Yeah.
Right. So I was born and raised in Chicago. So as a person who's native to Chicago, if I put out a record, chances are people in Chicago are going to hear it because I'm well like ingratiated in the musical community of my city because I'm born and raised here. Whereas somebody in Florida might not hear it. Somebody in Philadelphia might not hear it. Somebody in New York might not hear it. Somebody in Virginia might not hear it. They won't hear it unless there's a significant marketing budget put behind it to push it in different regions. That's why there's a regional thing in hip hop. Southern records don't necessarily pop in the North or the Midwest, or the, you know what I'm saying? Midwestern records don't necessarily pop in the South or the North. You know what I'm saying? So there has to be a marketing budget. And also there's national isolation. I'm American. How is somebody in Japan going to hear my record? How is somebody in
They hear it through corporate sponsors. But going back to the subject of men, that's how we're compromised. That's how we get canceled. And that's how that happens. And we're speaking as artists, but that happens from jobs.
Yeah.
Like you can't say like how what E. Johnson just said, man, say that at a job interview and watch how that go for you. Like my pronouns is motherfucker. Like you out of here. You know what I'm saying? You out of here.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Right,
and
right.
the examples, you know, so like I play with words. So it's like, man, take away the word cancel and let's talk about fired. You know what I'm saying? If you just say fired,
No, real talk.
like, hey, Jizzle, Shy City Ciphers, but y'all said some wild shit. Shy City Ciphers is fired from your Heineken sponsorship or this type of sponsorship. Like, like you get fired. If I say something crazy and it represents the Microphone Misfits, we just got a record played at a breaking battle in Malaysia. If Red Bull is like, oh, he said some crazy shit, your sponsorship, you're fired from your sponsorship. Like,
Hey Nick, let me talk about that, bro. That's why on the Shy City Cypher, we've always had like maybe 5 to 7 members, and I've always explained to members, you could talk about whatever you want. You could represent whatever political party it is that you want. But the moment you get fucking crazy and start saying some bullshit online, that's where it turns into some other shit. That's where we're getting canceled. That's where we're having fucking issues with people that want
fired. Let's say fire. Let's say fire because
that's where we get fired.
So
but that's why you gotta. That's why the people that rock with you, you have to know that they're on the same page. Like I know that Microphone Misfits, when you guys sit down and have talks, you guys are all on the same fucking page.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're all with the same values and pushing the same shit. And that's what's important in this shit, man. And I think that with being in a team and having something going on, it's always important to one, keep integrity in front of it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And also to, keep some kind of decency to you, man. Like some humancy shit to you. Like
Morals.
People are not gonna fuck with you.
Integrity.
If I know the Microphone Misfits are millionaires, oh shit. Well, they're on their shit because they're making millions of dollars. But also, like, are they fucking who did they steal to get the shit? Who did they fuck off to get the shit? Like, I'm not saying that they would ever do that, but you know what I'm saying? Those are the things that we look at when because you talk about decency. When motherfuckers make that bag, you talk about that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Did they sell somebody out? That's the big thing now. Did you snitch on your homie?
Yeah.
Did you do
check
this?
out. So to speak on that, what you just said real quick, D Nick. I'm gonna tell a quick story, and this shit just recently happened. So somebody I know was working for this company, right? And they were having an exchange of some keys or something, and the keys drop. The guy gets upset because the keys drop. He says something slick to the other guy says, "Yeah." The guy had a chipped tooth. He says, "Yeah, well, you keep talking like that, and after we get off work, we'll see what your other tooth is going to look like."
Oh shit!
So immediately, this guy goes to HR, and my man's is fired.
Snitch.
He's fired immediately. Now they don't even look at they only look at the one side because the guy who said, "Well, you're going to see what your other tooth is going to look like," but they don't take into account of what the other guy said.
Damn.
It's just really who got to HR first. But right, you know what I'm saying? Like, because he said the guy said shit to him, and he just responded in the same manner. These are two grown ass fucking men. You know what I mean? And this is just the levels of shit that we go through in society right now. And we're talking about cancellation. We're talking about being fired. We're talking about all that shit. We're talking about two grown men that should be able to have a fucking conversation and should be able to be like, "Hey, look, my bad about dropping the keys or whatever." And then like an old school thing would say, "Okay, yeah, fuck you, whatever. Pick up the keys. We both go on about our business and we don't fucking talk at work anymore," or some shit like that. But that shit don't happen anymore.
Can I say something?
No, but I'm
right.
You know
That's some old catty bitch ass shit. Motherfuckers ain't got time for that, man.
Go ahead, Mr. Johnson.
No, he said it. He said this bitch ass shit. Nobody got time for it.
Right. I mean, that's just that's his opinion. We're not talking about that. But I'm trying to piggyback. I'm piggybacking off of what D Nick was talking about being fired, and also too about agendas. All of that shit like encompasses what happened to my guy. You know
what the fuck is going on with society? That was the question, bro.
Man.
Yeah.
That was the question. The question
thing.
for today for the show is what the fuck
This
is
is
going
all
on in society?
encompassing, bro.
I'll tell you,
Listen,
all encompassing.
Hold on,
It's
let me talk about this. The fucking flyer, the flyer for today had a guy holding a stroller.
Pushing a stroller.
He was pushing a stroller, and there was a guy that was holding a purse holding the purse, and he was in the stroller being pushed.
No, he wasn't in the stroller, man.
Okay. Anyway, he had a guy with a purse and a guy in a stroller pushing the stroller. And
Yeah.
what the fuck was that about?
Nah,
that the
it just-
trends?
What was that
Is that the
about? What was that?
trends?
No, that's the
I
topic. What was
explained
it
the
about?
shit earlier, Jizzle. I explained the shit earlier.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I actually like 2 or 3 times I explained it.
Yeah.
And you didn't allow me to fucking finish each time. But it was just it really was just a door. It was just the opening up a door for conversation. You know what I'm saying? There was no real meaning behind the
So you
shit.
were fishing.
No, whatever. No, man, there was no real meaning behind it, but then there was a meaning behind it because it was the muscle bound guy pushing a stroller, and it was a man in a fucking dress with a purse with a beard. And so what the fuck is going on with society is all these gender roles, all of these things, all of the stresses, all of the issues. It's like, what the fuck is going on? I said this earlier. It just opens the door for conversation. That's it. No fishing, no clickbait, no nothing. Just opens the door for conversation. That's why I said earlier, I believe that we were hitting on all cylinders. And because of that flyer, that's how that shit happened. So that's your answer again for the 4th time of why it said, what the fuck is going on in society?
Gizzo, how you feel about the image? How do you feel about the image?
Apparently it's fucking with it.
You know what? To be honest, bro, like the way I feel is like there's an overshadow of the things that we're trying to blast on an image, right? Like, if I ask Reggie right now, what do you think about women that wear this? Or what do you think about women that? I feel like we're overshadowing some of the things that are true to topic, like, and that comes with everything. Every time there's a new McRib, right? When there's a new McRib, there's something happening in society. That some shit's happening. I feel like I don't want to overblast it with the question of, what do men do and women don't do and women don't do.
We haven't been talking about that.
No, I understand. I understand that we're about men's mental health, but I want to just take that and talk about actually what we're doing, like what we're the solutions to shit that we're talking about, because we talk about a lot of the problems. We talk about the problems on the shows, but part of the answer is the communication. Part of the answer is the communication and helping people to understand that they can communicate, that there are platforms, that there are things out there or people out there that will listen. That's part of the solution, and part of that shit is what we're fucking doing. And having an open dialogue and giving people the platform to say exactly how they feel, because a lot of people don't get that opportunity or don't feel that they're ever heard. This is, or will ever have a chance of being heard. Or there's people that may be listening right now and they watch. Can we get in the comments?
Yeah, just a second. There'll be people that maybe watching or listen later that go, holy shit. Maybe there's something that's being said in here that they go, oh shit, and it inspires them to go out and do something out of their comfort zone and to be better or to seek help or to do any of those things. This is just a catalyst, bro. It's just to open dialogue, and that's how you start everything, is to open up dialogue.
But you want to open up the right you want to open up the right dialogue. That's what I'm saying. Like
all dialogue is good dialogue.
No bullshit. We can sit and talk about bullshit for hours. We can sit and talk about bullshit for hours. But as long as we sit and talk about actual things that we're dealing with and actual solutions, a lot of us have had situations in the show that we've had before that are actual things that are happening with us. And
every fucking thing we're talking about are actual things that are happening.
Yes, exactly. Everything that's happening in the conversation are things that are happening with us at some point. Reggie,
they're happening as we speak. What do you mean? Have you not been listening to even the responses from other people that are on this panel and everything? Yeah, these things are actually happening. When D-Nick is talking about being fired, and he says that he has to be mindful and about things that he says on a show or in an open platform or fucking wherever the fuck. It's different. So it's happening to him right now as we speak, because even as he speaks right now, he has to watch what the fuck he says. So yeah, it is happening right now. It's not shit that's overshadowed or anything. This shit is opening.
It's happening right now, bro. For sure. Sid Vicious says part of the answers are in the discourse and the conversations.
What I said.
But when you do things that are meant to be reacted to, it becomes
disingenuous.
Right.
Well, we're not. We're not
I
trying
don't know. I kind of
He's talking about the projection that people put out when they don't really mean what they're talking about.
Well,
when you put something out, when you put an image out, like it's no matter how you feel about it, it's still art. It could be, it's
Yeah.
subjective, whether it's
that's what I told you.
whether it's good art, bad art, or advertisement, and then like people have reactions to that, and then but how you react depending on how compromised you is, depending on whether you get fired or not, and it's like that with everything, and what I'm saying. That's why I asked about like the image, and like how it make you feel and what. So to a solution, I don't think we always need solutions. I think we just need processes to go to solutions, and then sometimes we do. It's subjective, but the ultimate solution is in a capitalist corporatocracy, you need leverage. If you don't have leverage, that's your ass.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like
hold on, D Nick. I have a question for you. Just for probably the viewers that are watching right now, how do you gain leverage in a society like this? Like, do you have to have money to back you up? Do you have to be able to articulate what you're saying? Like,
oh man,
have leverage. That's
whatever. All right, for me, you take an inventory of what you don't have and what you do have, and you use what you do have to like for me, I'm decently smart. I got a pretty nice vocabulary, so I use that to get it where I need to get it. Also, I'm aware of what I don't have, so I'm always on the lookout for what I don't have. Other people
got about $500 worth of fucking $5 words.
So basically, it's how you communicate and how you observe things. You know what I'm saying? How you're cautious about what's going on.
I mean, no, but that's one. You leverage whatever you can leverage. Like if it's if it's a sex worker, you know what she leveraged. If it's a construction worker, you know what he leveraged. If it's a masseuse, a massage therapist, you know what they leverage. If you're a soldier, you know what you leverage. All of OT is he knows all of his skills to what he can leverage in any situation.
Before I lose this question, we're talking about men's mental health. We're talking about how men deal with mental health. So, man, how do you regain that leverage when now we're in a society where women are on a higher pedestal, meaning that they gain more money? You know what I'm saying? They're going further in education than us, having higher paying jobs. Like, how do we gain that leverage to where it's a balanced thing now?
Bro, after you answer that, I would love to answer that.
We will inevitably regain that leverage because that pedestalism is a false reality. It is only destined for failure, and it will fail.
Everybody, even the people in the comments, like I want to hear how everyone feels about this.
It's all about, all of that stuff is perception. Like, I'm a Rasta, so I don't give a fuck about none of that stuff. So none of that stuff like means nothing to me. Like I'm, if I gotta live on the forest and just eat, grass, then that's what it is. Like I'm, that's
exactly.
So it's all about. It's all about it's about goals. I won't even use, since he said I'm using too many $5 words. It's all about goals. It's goals and perception of goals. So you can't, you give it value. You give poom poom value. You give these jobs value. You give economics value, and that gives it leverage. So you can. It doesn't mean nothing to you if you recalibrate. That was another $5 word. If you retrain the way you think, then that's a start. That's a start.
Hey, I'm just trying to come with dime and a nickel words.
I want to answer that question. You ask, how do we as men regain the leverage? For one,
to make it more like,
let him talk.
Yeah.
Well, to E. Johnson's point, I think the perception of losing leverage is just that. It's just a false perception because they don't really have any more leverage over us. But I think to put it in a very easy answer, bro, I think in order for us to regain leverage is just the power to walk away, bro.
Yeah.
It's non-participation. It's as simple as that. Because no matter what these newer values, like are trying to push to us, at the heart of it, you cannot change biology and you can't change nature, right?
A lot of people would beg to differ with you on that, but we ain't
That's
gonna
fine.
touch that. We ain't gonna touch that.
Yeah,
We ain't
that's
gonna
fine.
touch that.
That's fine. They have their right to do
should.
that.
Fired.
But what I will say is,
Fired.
bro, what frustrates particularly women the most is your ability to just not participate. I'm sure all of us as men have been in a situation where a woman is trying to get a reaction. You know what burns them the fuck up the most? When you just don't react.
Fucking
Yeah,
react.
When you just
absolutely.
don't react, bro. People think the opposite of love is hatred. It's not really hatred. It's really indifference.
Last
Yeah.
night with my
It's
wife.
just indifference. You know what I'm saying? Like the opposite of love is really just indifference. Like I really don't care one way or the other. People think it's hatred. No, hatred is a perversion of love, because in order to hate somebody, you have to have been invested in the first place. Right? So I can only hate you if you let me down or disappointed me. If I didn't give a fuck about you one way or the other from jump, I can't hate you because I never gave a fuck about you in the first place.
Period.
So the opposite of love is really indifference. It's not really hate, because hate means you cared at some point and they did something to make you hate them. Hate is still an emotional
Yeah,
attachment,
it's a feeling.
right? So our power simply as men is walking away in non-participation.
Beautiful answer.
That's it.
Beautiful
Like, you know what I'm
answer.
saying? That's it.
Check this out. I said to myself today, we're only going to do an hour and a half, because I want to stand on that before we get all ridiculously crazy long-winded. So what we do at this point in time, we're going to give everybody a minute or so to say some last words, and then I'll close it out and we call it one. But it's been beautiful. I'll say that right out the rip. You want to go ahead, Jizzo?
Man, you know what? Listening to the conversation and going back with you and me, like as we're listening to the conversation, and I know you and me are kind of like sharing a couple looks here and there on things. I think in the end, bro, as long as we're talking about the topic was what the fuck is going on with society,
Right.
and I think in the end, when people stick to their self, to their true original self, we don't have to worry about this question. This question for you is if you're wondering what the fuck other motherfuckers are on, or what the fuck other people are doing. But if you are 100 with yourself and you're in everything that you do, music wise, life wise, music relationship wise, whatever it is that you do, as long as you're 100 with yourself, you don't have to worry about none of these fucking stereotypes and none of the things going on that we just talked about. Stay true to yourself. Make your music. Do your thing. Promote yourself. Fuck all this shit that everybody talking about. That's what I got to say about it. In my closing statement is fuck what everybody else thinks about you. Do what the fuck it is that you do, and do it the best that you can.
Word. Shout out to that. Mr. Reggie, sir. Reggie Smokes. Make it brief, bro. Don't go long-winded on my ass.
Closing statement. I think that once again, I think the basics of what happened in this country in particular is a war of values. And I think you need to determine what your individual values are and where you stand kind of in that spectrum of things. And once you determine that, you need to kind of figure out how best to represent and like those values in your own life and where you're comfortable with that. And then once you do that, everything else will kind of figure itself out. So that's my closing statement.
Man, shout out to you, Reggie. OT.
What up?
You've been quiet this whole time. You know, the last couple of shows you was very vocal. Now you got quiet on us again, man.
Hey. You
What's
know how
up,
it
man?
is.
What are your
Hey.
thoughts on what the things that have been said this evening?
I'm gonna say, first of all, it's been a pleasure sitting down listening to you, brothers, talking to you. I'm always thankful for this. It's been enlightening, and that's another reason why I'm so quiet today. Plus, I've had some technical difficulties, but that's all what it is. Hey, it is what it is.
We're gonna get you up to speed, bro.
Stay true to who we are. Like I said, I'm a listener and a doer. I'm one of the old school guys, like we talked about. Just stay true to who you are and keep pushing, and we'll all get through this together. It's been a good show.
My man. E. Johnson. Last words.
E. Johnson, homie of the motherfucking show that
Yeah,
is
of all
now
the shows.
that is now on video for the first time ever.
No, he was on video before.
Yeah, man. I just want to say it's good to chime in with y'all brothers. Y'all see I be up in the chat
Yeah.
like all the time.
appreciate
But
you.
you was addressing topics where I couldn't type with my thumb like what I wanted to say, so I had to, you know what I'm saying. But
yes, sir.
I appreciate the show and what you are doing, Mr.
Thank you.
Heat Detector. You
Thank
know,
you. He's on it, man. And we got the young
from
son,
Mr. Motherfucker and Your Majesty to your esteemed self.
Yes,
I
sir.
appreciate it, man. I like it. That's why I check in.
Yeah, my man.
You know, you supported my show. You came and checked in and listened to me. I'm like, that's the least I can do. It. And your topics are so interesting.
Thank you, sir.
The way you present them is very professional. It's leisure, but it is dope, and I appreciate it. And
Thank you
I'm
very
glad
much,
to be here tonight amongst you, brothers.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Likewise.
D-Nick.
Yes. Closing thoughts. You know, when it comes to that, what's going on in society, you just gotta, take control of goals, your definitions, your perception, and acquire leverage for your use. That's what it is.
My
I can
man,
dig
my
it.
man. Youngster, talk to us. What's your thoughts? You done heard a whole lot of shit.
I've been saying this for a while now since I've been watching this show, man. This is one of my favorite shows because it actually gives like men a platform to talk about their feelings. And I just want to say to all you young men out there, your older men, everyone out there, like, man, don't forget, just communicate. You know what I'm saying? Even if it makes you feel lesser than a man than you are, communicate, because that could, save your relationship. It could save your life. It can save, whatever situation that you're in. So just don't forget to communicate, man. And always remember to love.
Oh, man.
Yes,
Shout out
much
to that.
love, much love, much love.
Now, for the grand Consindro, or what is
Grand
it?
finale.
No, the Consindro, or what is it? The
Crescendo?
Crescendo, whatever. Yeah,
Crescendo.
Yeah.
Crescendo.
That was about a $3.50 word.
You
that I-
motherfuckers' language is up.
Can we say something
Good
together at the
350.
same time?
What? Yeah, but let me give my last fucking thoughts. You know what I mean? For anybody that had any misunderstanding or misguided thoughts about what that flyer looked like, that flyer looked like exactly what the fuck we were talking about tonight. That flyer is everything. That flyer, when you looked at it, whatever you took out of it, that's what your issue is, that's what your problem is, and that's the shit you're thinking about. There's no real meaning to that. It's what the fuck is going on in society, man. That's it. And having a place where we could talk about these things. And like I said earlier, we were hitting on all cylinders, and I loved it. I loved it because it opened up the door for communication. It opened up some eyes. And I'm sure somebody's going to go back and listen to this, and listening to this young man so eloquently speak will open other people's eyes to doing, maybe even educating themselves a little bit more, maybe finding out what those $5 words actually fucking mean. It's a beautiful fucking, and I love it. 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 This is why we do this motherfucking show. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, what about
Good,
my
bad, or
diamond
indifferent.
nickels?
Good.
What about
Good.
my diamond nickels?
Don't worry about that, bro. We'll tackle that shit next week. But this is why we do the show. This is why we love the show. You know what I'm saying? And because I love my people of color. Every last one, every last shade of fucking tan, brown, black. I love my people, period. You know what I'm saying? And I hate to see any of us fail.
Me too.
This has been the check-in. This has been the check-in.
We ain't over that quick.
Yeah.
This has been the check-in. You can follow me on Jizzle for Shizzle on Instagram.
There we go.
You can follow the Shy City Cypher on YouTube. Just look up YouTube. Just type in Shy City Cypher. You can find us. And it's, as always, man, it's a pleasure and an honor to be on the show. Caliber, man.
I can follow you on Jizzle for shit. Spell that shit. Dude.
Yeah, man. If you wanna
that shit all the time. Sometimes I told you. I said it shit all the time. Slow that shit down because some motherfuckers don't fucking get it.
You could go on Facebook. You could go on Instagram and type in GIZZO, the number 4, the number 4. So GIZZO, the number 4. for Shizzle, and then CHIZZO.
What the fuck?
Shizzle for Shizzle.
Hey, man, we'll end up putting that shit in the link or
Look,
something, man.
basically,
Okay.
all you gotta do to find it is type in
You got an
GIZZO and the number
encrypted
4.
ass
All right.
name.
Cool. How can they
Like
find
a
you, Reggie?
VPN.
Man, you
Okay,
can find
hold
me.
on, slow down. How can they find you, Reggie?
Man, you can find me on Reggie Smokes. It's RAGGIES.
Okay, Reggie Smokes.
Reggie Smokes.
Okay, D-Nick, how can they find you?
You just follow anything the Microphone Misfits. That's the Microphone Misfits. That's THEMICROPHONEMISFITZ. The Microphone Misfits. Who else could it be?
Yes.
All right.
OT, can they find you anywhere? Hell no.
No.
Your ass can
On the YouTube. On the YouTubes. On the YouTube.
Right. He's right here on Unwrap. And you can find us at www.youtube.com/@unwrap. You can find
We love
you know
y'all,
what I'm saying,
man.
on all the platforms. And we also got the youngster. How can they find you,
The
sir?
homie Cam.
Oh man, all right, man. You can find me on Instagram, Killer Cam, KILLA_Cam CAM3140.
Let's go.
You can also find me on
Man,
on
damn,
platform
that's a
as well,
whole
on
lot of
YouTube,
shit. I want to get
Sports
so y'all
Podcast,
can
and
hit
I'm
me
on
with
Sports
your
Podcast
links
every Saturday at
some
9
shit.
p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. Pacific Time, where we talk about sports. Sports, how you supposed to get it, dummy.
There it is.
Hey.
Hey, thank you for everybody. We'll see y'all motherfuckers next motherfucking week, next Sunday. We out this bitch, man. Peace.
Get the fuck out of here.
D Nick, once again,
Yeah.
thanks again.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. Shout out to you, D Nick.
Yes, sir. Shout out to you,
man,
brother.
shout out to Reggie, man.
Oh,
Shout
man.
out to Reggie.
I appreciate that. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
Reggie, man, that stuff was dope, man. I like the music, brother. It's dope. I'm gonna look you up, man. It's really, really nice. Really
Man,
dope.
dude, yeah, maybe I'm gonna look y'all up, dude. I've heard y'all name before, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, I heard y'all shit
We're
before.
we're rocking this weekend coming up. It's a free show. It's out on the west side. I know you're a south sider, but you know if you go to the west